All right. Now, what is it you're wanting to
I would just like you to tell me the story of how you met your husband and um, how
almost met him?
how you almost met him twice and how then you did meet him actually.
Okay. All right. When I was about, I would say 12 or 13, I went to visit my aunt, and we went to a friend or relative's home, and they had a pool, a swimming, well, no, let's just call it what it was, a pond. And so we went in the water, and after we got out, the gentleman who owned that farm said, "Oh, I wish you could have been here last week." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "There was just the cutest little boy, been perfect for you, Peggy." And someone said, "Oh, you mean the little boy that came with the Bradshaw family?" And they said, "Yes." And they all just kind of laughed. Well, the little person who went with the Bradshaws was Jerry. So I missed him by a week that time. Um,
But was your curiosity piqued?
no, had no idea what he looked like. Or the Bradshaw, that didn't mean anything to me, and I was only 12. I figured I'd meet someone. So, anyway, the next time I must have been about probably 1920, and I lived on 6th Street. And my friend Nikki, which many of you met, was there visiting, and so we were sitting on the front porch, and I remember we had on polka dotted, they're kind of like what you'd lounging jackets or something on, very loud. And someone walked by, and she whistled, and the gentleman turned around and said, "I think so too." Well, look, remembering that guy's face, I know that it was Jerry because he only lived 2 blocks farther down, and it was for his grandparents, and he was probably there visiting. So that was the second time. Those were kind of incidental. The third one is so funny because we actually had conversation. Although he never wanted to admit it, it is a true story. Uh, I worked at the courthouse, so when people then kind of know where you work because they might come there once in a while and see you. And a friend of mine, no, a classmate worked for the phone company. And one day there was a person-to-person call came in, and the operator said, they said, person-to-person to Peggy Collins, or so she thought. And so she said, she put the call through to me. And the guy on the other line said, "Hi, Peggy." He said, "This is Jerry. I'm going to be in town this weekend. You want to go out?" And I said, "I don't think I know it, Jerry. What's your name?" And he said, "Jerry Hickey." And I said, "Oh, I would remember that. No, this is the wrong person." He says, "Oh, come on. What do you mean you don't remember me?" And I said, "I don't. I'm not kidding. And I'm in an office where you're not even supposed to be taking personal calls." And so I said, "Who are you looking for?" And he said, "Peggy Cullen." And I said, "Oh, I'm Peggy Collins." Well, you can imagine the words that were used on the line, that she had put him through to the wrong girl, and he was calling with probably quarters and nickels and dimes from probably Kansas City. And so I'm sure he said, "You need to give me back my money." So I'm sure she did. But that was the end of that conversation. It was just a funny thing that happened. Somebody just, and I knew it was Neva, my friend, who doesn't really like me, had put it through, and I thought, I bet he really read you the right act, and I'm glad. But anyways, we went on. I did meet Jerry, and we were married and everything. And one day we were talking about just people that we knew, and he said, "Did you know Peggy Cullen?" And I knew instantly it was him on that call. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that was you on that call." And he said, "What call?" And I said, "The call where they gave you the wrong Peggy, and you were so mad, demanding your money back." And he just looked at me kind of smiled, but he never would admit. But I knew definitely that was who it was.
That must have been hilarious. So how did you actually meet him?
Oh, like I said, he just lived down the street. Not all the time. He'd come when he visited. When he lived with his grandparents, he lived with them a lot too. Um, he that was only 2 blocks from where I was renting when I went to Kirksville from the farm, and he the dean of the college in the Northeast, well, it's Truman University now, but it was Northeast State Teachers College, and the dean's name was Sherrod Collins, and he was looking for that guy's number, and I said, "Were you trying to call his daughter?" And he said, "No, it was in the middle of the summer." Is the reason I said that. And he said, "No, I was thinking about maybe about playing football. I wanted to talk to him about football." So who knows what he was really calling about. And my name, when you got a phone, then you put your name, because we didn't have cell phones then. You got a phone, and your name was in the phone book with your address. And so he just saw my name with Sherrod Collins, and he called and he said, "Oh, I just called Sherrod Collins. Do you know who that is?" And I said, "Everybody knows Sherrod Collins. Who is this?" And he said, "Well, I just lived, my grandparents just lived down the street. Who are you? I thought I knew everybody on 6th Street." And I said, "Well, I haven't lived very long." He said, "Perhaps we know each other." And I said, "No, we don't." And he said, "Well, I'll just walk down." I said, "No, I don't know who you are." He said, "Well, this is my name, and everybody knows my grandparents. Everybody knows my mom. Now, you just go to work tomorrow, and you ask all of that information. Just give them that information, and they'll know who I am." And so the next day I did, and they all did know, and they knew his grandparents because they'd lived there for a long time and everything. And his mother, they knew her. Most of them said, "Oh, we know her. She was really pretty." As you all remember, your grandmother or great-grandmother, whatever it happens to be. And she was a pretty woman. So he called the next night and wanted to know if I wanted to, if I had found out anything about him. And I said, "Yes, they got good reviews." And he said, "Well, then I'm just going to come down." And I said, "No, I had plans tonight." So he said, "Well, how about tomorrow night or the next?" And I said, "Okay, 2 nights from now." So we decided that, he said, "Where do you want to go? And where would you like to go?" And there's 2 places you usually went, young kids. You either went to a place called the Tap Room, which was usually the college students. Kirksville is a college town, has 2 major colleges. And then there's the Red Room, which was for older people, or people who just weren't, in
the cool group.
In the cool group, I guess we'd call it that. And so we agreed on the Red Room because we neither one knew what each other looked like. And we are just that vain, I guess. If there's any vainness in, you can just blame everybody. So
and meaning that you wouldn't want to be seen with someone that you
don't. Yeah, we don't know who this person is really. And he was probably more that way than I, because no one said, "Oh, you want to stay away from him," and he didn't even know anything about me. And so he came down and he knocked on the door, and I didn't answer the door. I just said, "Come in." And he walked across the floor really fast, and he just took hold of my arm, and he said, "I don't think we've met." And I said, "No, I don't think so." And he just stood there and he said, "Would you rather go to the Tap Room?" we both just laughed at that a little bit, because we knew. And I said, "No, let's just go to the Red Room. They have a shuffleboard there, and we can play shuffleboard." And so we went on to the.
But he obviously wanted to be seen with you at the Tap Room.
This girl's okay. And so we did. We went to there, and we drove down to the lake in La Plata, but we didn't have anything. It was a private lake then, and came back. So we decided to go to the fair, and that's sort of that picture of me, that picture that I have in there. that's where that picture was taken at the fair. And I didn't want to have the picture taken. He said, "No, we got to have the picture taken." And that's funny because after all these years, we still have that picture.
It's
and
awesome.
the little note that he wrote. And so that's how we met.
Perfect. Thank you.